As I get started today, there's something I think that you need to know about me. When I was growing up, I was a daddy's girl. In fact, my dad was my favorite person. But there's also a couple things that I think that you need to know about my dad. As a matter of fact, let's go ahead and take a closer look at him. You see, because my dad used to take me to his friend's house so he could have his wife perm his hair in their kitchen. My dad tried to look like this on purpose. But that's not everything. My dad looks like he drives a van. And not just any kind of van. My dad looks like he drives some kind of shaggin' wagon. I'm talking like floor-to-ceiling carpeting, probably some curtains on the inside, and on the outside, a big, majestic bald eagle, like rocking out on the bass guitar or something. And we're not even going to talk about how my dad's wearing sunglasses inside, because I only have 18 minutes. But there's something else that I think that you need to know about my dad. My dad really wanted to have a daughter. And when I think of guys, I think they want to have sons. They want someone to throw the ball around with or work on cars together, like grow their beards or something, but not my dad. My dad just really, 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 really wanted to have a daughter. He wanted to have one so bad that, well, he just kept trying until he got one. And that's how I ended up with 4 older brothers. But now being the baby and daddy's little girl does have its advantages. You see, because my dad and I had a connection that you just don't get too often in life. We had a very special relationship. Unfortunately, though, for all the good things that there are about my dad, there's one part that's not so good. It's actually the reason why I bring him up. My dad is an alcoholic and a drug addict. When I was a little girl, he'd often tell me, I'm going to pick you up this weekend. We're going to stay up late. We're going to eat candy. We're going to talk all night long. But then nothing. As an 8-year-old girl, waiting for your father to come, this is a very confusing time. He said he's going to be there. You asked your mom if you can just call again, just one more time. But your mom knows it doesn't matter how many times you call. He's not coming. All your mom can do is hold you and wipe away your tears as you cry out for him. For these reasons, and probably many others, my dad wasn't too good with keeping his commitments to his little girl. He actually made a lot of bad decisions. In 2007, this news article was written about my dad. It states that he was pulled over, suspicion of drunk driving. He had 7 prior DUI convictions at this time. It doesn't end there, though. In 2009, this news article was also written about my dad. He was pulled over at somewhere between 5 and 6 times over the legal limit. Think about that for a second. Over 5 times the legal limit. Not only was my dad still alive, but he was operating his vehicle. At some point in life, when someone breaks so many commitments to you, it can have an effect on your relationship. You may lose trust in them. You may get anxious when they make a commitment to you. You may even end the relationship over it. This is what would happen with me and my dad, actually. There was a 2-year period of time where I decided not to talk to him anymore because I just couldn't be a victim of his alcoholism anymore. My name is Amanda, and I'm the co-founder of an international social movement, a nonprofit dedicated to making humanity better through promises made and kept. To live with honor is to be a person of your word. But unfortunately, we will all break promises as well. I helped start this movement because I wanted to help people like my father get better at their commitments. And I think it's pretty obvious the impact that broken promises have on individual relationships, like they did with me and my dad. But if you think it stops there, I assure you it doesn't. The betterment of humanity itself relies on commitments. Because when parents don't keep their commitments to their children, when teachers don't keep their commitments, and when politicians and volunteers that say that they're going to show up don't, the great possibility of what could have and should have been simply never happens. And I guess because of the emotional nature of commitments, broken promises sometimes feel like lying. Like someone is just being dishonest to your face. I guess I'm not the only person that believes this. Two professors, Dr. Thomas Baumgartner and Professor Ernst Furr at the University of Zurich, wanted to study the neuroscience behind broken promises. They wanted to determine if they could predict a broken promise at the moment that it was made. So they put people in MRI machines and had them make commitments. What they found shouldn't be shocking. The brain scans of people who didn't keep their commitments looked just like those of previous studies of people who were lying. They determined that you can, in fact, predict if a promise is going to be made at the moment that it is made, not at the time that it is kept. At the moment that it is made. So yeah, sometimes there are promises that we make that we have no intention of keeping. But oftentimes we make promises that we do have every intention of keeping. And then with all the planning that we do, with the careful word choice that we have, with all of the best of intentions and the skills and abilities, we still can't keep every promise. Because what happens when the weather or your car breaking down or your flight gets canceled? Then what do you do? See, because it doesn't matter if you're a person that breaks many commitments or a person that breaks just a few. You will come to a moment where you break a commitment to someone, even if it is outside of your control. In life, we make so many commitments, like I'll call you back, I'll text you later, I'll be at school, I'm going to be at work, parents, your kids. Life is full of commitments, and we can't simply keep them all. So what are you going to do? What are you going to do when you come to this moment? How are you going to handle your broken promises? We have developed 6 steps that we feel you should use when you break your promise. Now, you may be thinking, why do I need a TED Talk on this? This is obvious. I just apologize to the person, right? But in fact, if you go into a conversation ready to apologize, you may end up in more trouble. These steps will help you understand that. First, I think we need to start with a commitment. Let's say you promise, I will drive Grandma to dialysis every week. You love Grandma, she needs you, and you're a reliable person, so everything's going to work out, right? And for the first couple of weeks, it does. You pick her up, you take her to her appointment, you drop her off, everything's great. But then one day you're at work and you get a phone call from your child's school. There's an emergency and you have to come get them. While you're at the school, you realize you forgot about Grandma. There was a conflict. You actually shouldn't have been able to leave at that time. Now what are you going to do? Before you even go into a conversation with Grandma, the first step on how you should handle this broken promise starts with planning. You have to first decide your new level of commitment. You just broke a promise. You may feel like, okay, this is obvious also, like I'm going to remake the promise, or I'll make a bigger promise to make up for that one. But those are actually kind of risky. You don't want to get yourself in a situation where you make a promise you don't intend to keep, or you make a promise you simply can't keep. What you should actually consider is making a smaller promise, or perhaps no new promise at all. Perhaps there's no way for you to keep this original commitment to Grandma. Next, you need to create a documented plan. Exactly how are you going to keep this commitment when you couldn't keep your first one? So now you're ready to apologize? No, not yet. See, before you go into a conversation with grandma, there's another step. First, prepare yourself for accountability. Mentally prepare yourself for the conversation that you're about to have. Depending on where your relationship is and the sensitivity of the nature of it, you may also want to prepare yourself to be scolded. Be honest with yourself. Grandma might say something like, well, you said you were going to be there. I was relying on you. I could have gotten really sick. You have to mentally prepare yourself to take in this conversation. Prepare yourself to act how you would want others to act. How often does someone break a commitment to you and take accountability for it? How often do they go into this apology knowing exactly what they're going to do about it? Well, wouldn't it be nice if that did happen? Now in step 3 is when you're ready to have a conversation, when you're ready to apologize. But you should also plan for this as well. You should structure your apology in this way. I'm sorry, Grandma, I missed your dialysis appointment. I should have checked my schedule before I left work to go to the school in an emergency. I did not plan well. I broke a promise. How often do you hear someone literally say, I broke a promise? Well, wouldn't that be nice to hear? Next, in this conversation is where you let Grandma do the talking. Listen and stay consistent with your apology. Luckily, you've already mentally prepared yourself for this conversation. She may scold you. She may try to make you feel guilty. She may bring up all the past hurt that you may have caused her, depending on how many broken promises you have done in the past. But stay consistent. Definitely avoid excuses. Remember that you are a person of your word. You're a person of good character, and you want to take accountability for what you have done and what you have failed to do. Next in this conversation, communicate your new level of commitment. Luckily, you've already created a plan in step 1, so you know exactly what you can commit to. You've also thought about how you're going to do that. Explain why this new level of commitment. You may say something like, Grandma, I know I said every week, but I actually have to change my commitment. I can only commit to taking you for the next 3 weeks. Because after that, my work schedule is unknown, and I don't want to break another promise to you. Do not cave under the pressure. It is very hard to say no to someone, especially someone you love or respect, like your children, your parents, your boss, or even your grandmother. And when they ask for more from you, you have luckily already decided what you can give. You have decided what you can commit to, so you will not make a promise you don't intend to keep. But it doesn't end here. Step 6 is where you show your plan, where you both agree upon your new commitment. You documented exactly what might go wrong, so explain that. Explain that things may come up last minute, that you may need a backup person for this appointment, that you simply just may not be very good with planning and could forget again. It's okay to invite in accountability. It's okay to ask for help with your commitments. You may say, Grandma, can you call me an hour before? Can you make sure that I don't forget? Can we ask my mom to be a backup in case I'm not available? Can we communicate each week to see if I can commit that week? I'm not comfortable with committing too far in the future. These are the 6 steps on how I believe you should handle your next broken promise. Step 1 is to plan. Step 2 is to prepare yourself for accountability. Then in step 3, are you ready to apologize? But you must still, in step 4, listen and stay consistent. Have an open mind and an open ear for how you made the other person feel. In step 5, you communicate your new level of commitment. And finally, in step 6, you show your plan. I do not know you, and I do not know how many commitments you make. But I do know that my dad had 5 chances. 5 times to get this right. He had 5 children. And now I only have 1. I have a 9-year-old son. His name is Trent. And I am a woman of my word. But I also make mistakes. I want to be a person of good character so I can teach him to be a man of honor. So what are you going to do? What are you going to do the next time you come to this moment? The next time you break a commitment? See, because life is not a movie, and not everything has a happy ending. Not everything is going to work out every time. But it is how you handle it that will affect the relationships around you. Because it seems that it doesn't matter how much love for me my father had, it couldn't stop him from breaking his commitments to me. Thank you.